Analysis: two distinct halves and proof that merely competing isn't enough for Vasco. Team starts with a strong stance against Flamengo, but fails to open the scoring and collapses in the second half. By GE editorial team, Rio de Janeiro, the 2nd of March 2025, 3 o'clock, updated 1 day ago. What was already complex has become even more complicated. Vasco lost the first leg of the semi-final against Flamengo 1-0 at Nilton Santos, and is now even further from securing a place in the Campeonato Carioca final. They now must win the return leg at the Maracana by a 2-goal margin to guarantee qualification. Vasco showed 45 minutes of competitive spirit, with more shots and clearer chances to hit the target. However, every derby against Flamengo proves that merely competing against your rival is not enough. You must be effective when the few opportunities arise. Thus, after a promising first half from Vasco, Flamengo did as expected. They controlled the game in the second half and imposed their tempo with players who are more technically adept than those from the São Januário side. Unlike Fábio Carol's team, they did not show any mercy. A 1-0 win was secured by an unlikely strike from Bruno Henrique, who had not even had an opportunity before the goal. Another disappointment for Vasco, once again. Regardless of the result, being content to simply compete against your greatest rival, for a spell or even for the full 90 minutes, will never console the supporters of a club with Vasco's heritage. Flamengo's technical superiority is evident, and the financial disparity is clear. Yet the attitude and manner in which Vasco approaches these duels, particularly after conceding, reveal a mental collapse in the derby. This is reflected in recent times, with only 2 Vasco victories in the last 31 matches against Flamengo. Vasco began the derby determined to answer their supporters and to leave behind the poor performance against Flamengo in the Taça Guanabara. With plenty of intensity in ball contests and solidity in defense, the team put in a good first half against their rival. Carol reinstated his formation with 3 midfielders at Nilton Santos. Jair operated centrally as the primary midfielder to enhance their build-up play, with Hugo Moura on the right and Matias Carvalho on the left. The consistent performance in midfield provided security for the defensive duo of Lucas Freitas and João Victor, who won nearly all their battles against Flamengo's attacking trio. Even with some absences, Vasco's organization was sufficient to neutralize Flamengo, who were making uncharacteristic passing errors in constructing their play. Leo Jardim did not even have to make a save in the first half. Carol's team ended the first half with more shots than the red and black side, including the best chance. At 42 minutes, Ryan received a superb pass from Coutinho, who had been active in the first half, and his one-on-one finish was brilliantly saved by Rossi. On the rebound, Leo Ortiz cleared it at the line. Against Flamengo, the Vasco supporter already knows that one must not squander the few chances that arise. However, Vasco returned from the interval almost as a different team and did not replicate their good performance in the second half. More organized, Flamengo reappeared on the pitch better and with a greater ability to impose their playing tempo. Just 11 minutes into the second half, Luis Araujo hit the post with a shot following an errant back pass from Matias Carvalho at the edge of the box. Flamengo's pressure mounted, and Carol sought to react with the introduction of Lloyd Augusto, the final offensive reinforcement to arrive for 2025, who wasn't even presented to the fans at the usual press conference. Matias Carvalho, who had not been performing well, was replaced by the Angolan striker. Once again, the lack of options on the bench compared to their rivals was glaring. Minutes after the substitution came a cold shower. Bruno Henrique capitalized on an error from Lucas Freitas, who, despite the mistake, had started safely, spun and struck an unlikely left-footed shot from outside the area. Out of form, the number 27 for Flamengo was being nullified by Vasco's defensive duo. Yet it is in these moments that the stark individual quality differences between the teams become apparent. One moment can prove fatal. The score was opened at Nilton Santos. After the goal, Vasco's composure completely collapsed. The team could no longer even make a minimal offensive presence. Kirill only made further changes after 30 minutes, with the introductions of Payet, Sforza and Garé, the latter being another reinforcement. However, the changes had no effect. The French midfielder once again played well below the physical standard required in a derby and was lacking technically. Vasco only threatened Rossi's goal again in the final moments of the match, with a header from João Victor that was ultimately saved by the Argentine keeper at the near post. But that was all, 1-0 for their rivals.